Welcome to Heavy D Storytelling. We are going to be reading a story, but first up we are going to be doing the Bible verse, and then we are going to be reading the Bible, and then we are going to be doing the synopsis, and then we are going to be reading Charlotte's Web. I didn't do that correctly because I wrote that, but I hope you guys enjoy. Make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and thumbs up on the video. So, and thank you, Daddy, for doing the thing. So,
this thing?
Yeah, he's cool. We are going to be reading 2 chapters. First Corinth.
2 verses?
2 verses, not chapters. Hello. 1 Corinthians 3, 8 through 9. Here we go. He who plants and he who waters are one, and each will receive his wages according to his labor. For we are God's fellow workers. You are God's field, God's building. Yay. So, we are going to head to Bible time with Daddy. Okay, see ya.
Hello, one person. Thank you for joining me.
That's Mom.
All right. We are doing Bible time. We are in the book of Micah, chapter 2. This is the English Standard Version. Let me go ahead and get started today. Woe to those who devise wickedness and work evil on their beds. When the morning dawns, they perform it because it is in the power of their hand. They covet fields and seize them, and houses and take them away. They oppress a man and his house, a man and his inheritance. Excuse me, I've got some congestion. Sorry about that. Therefore, thus says the Lord, behold, against this family I am devising disaster, from which you cannot remove your necks, and you shall not walk haughtily, for it will be a time of disaster. In that day they shall take up a taunt song against you, and moan bitterly, and say, we are utterly ruined. He changes the portion of my people, how he removes it from me. To an apostle he allots our fields. Therefore, you will have none to cast the line by lot in the assembly of the Lord. Do not preach, thus they preach. One should not preach of such things. Disgrace will not overtake us. Should this be said, O house of Jacob? Has the Lord grown impatient? Are these his deeds? Do not my words do good to him who walks uprightly? But lately my people have risen up as an enemy. You strip the rich robe from those who pass by trustingly, with no thought of war. The women of my people you drive out from their delightful houses. From their young children you take away my splendor forever. Arise and go, for this is no place to rest, because of uncleanness that destroys with a grievous destruction. If a man should go about and utter wind and lies, saying, I will preach to you of wine and strong drink, he would be the preacher of this people. I will surely assemble all of you, O Jacob. I will gather the remnant of Israel. I will set them together like sheep in a fold, like a flock in its pasture, a noisy multitude of men. He who opens the breach goes up before them. They break through and pass the gate, going out by it. Their king passes on before them, the Lord at their head. That is the end of Micah chapter 2. So I hope that God is richly blessing you with the scripture. So now we're going to go on to Charlotte's Web in the last couple of chapters, because we've been reading a couple every night. So Charlotte taught Wilbur everything there is to know about spinning webs. So Templeton tied a string to his tail. Wilbur jumped from the highest point in his manure pile, and he fell down and broke his neck, and he died. And that's the end of the story. Oh,
I thought you were gonna do the thing where you were gonna make it so that Fern's brother stole Charlotte and then Wilbur died.
Here's Kimberly to say how it really happened.
That's what I thought you were gonna say. It's funny killing off all the characters. Okay, so what actually happened was he fell down and everybody laughed at him because he said, "Hey, look everybody, I'm gonna spin a web!" And then he fell down and everybody laughed. And then, like I said, Fern's brother came with her to the pig pen. They were going on a really big swing before this, and he saw Charlotte, and he's like, "Oh, cool! Look at this spider! I can keep it with my frog." So he tries to reach over and grab Charlotte, and then he disturbs Wilbur's feeding trough, and splat! The egg is busted. That one rotten egg. And later, the farmer, I keep forgetting names, I'm sorry. He comes over and he sees...
Zuckerman.
Yeah, Mr. Zuckerman. He comes over and rather not sees, smells the rotten egg. And he's like, "We've got a rat!" He takes the feeding trough, buries the egg, and a lot of Templeton's stuff. And that was about the end of the reading, wasn't it? Or is
Charlotte
this...
has been caring for
Oh,
Wilbur
yeah.
a lot,
Yeah,
taking
I
care of him,
remember.
and
Daniel's got some input. Do you want to share?
no,
Go for it.
I forgot to mention, Charlotte was, she tore up a section of her web and has been working on something all night long, and we're about to find out what she's doing. In fact, when Templeton got back from the dump, she was still busy at work. I'm gonna hand it off to Dad, who's gonna take his red pillow back.
And I was going to say, that chapter ended with Charlotte and Wilbur having conversations when Wilbur was supposed to be going to bed.
that never happens here.
That never happens here. So, all right, we're on chapter XI. That's 11. The Miracle. I'm waiting for JJ to get back. He missed the synopsis.
He's gonna die.
I was here yesterday.
All right. Chapter 11, The Miracle. The next day was foggy. Everything on the farm was dripping wet. The grass looked like a magic carpet. The asparagus patch looked like a silver forest. On foggy mornings, Charlotte's web was truly a thing of beauty. This morning, each thin strand was decorated with dozens of tiny beads of water. The web glistened in the light and made a pattern of loveliness and mystery, like a delicate veil. Even Lurvy, who wasn't particularly interested in beauty, noticed the web when he came with the pig's breakfast. He noted how clearly it showed up, and he noted how big and carefully built it was. And then he took another look, and he saw something that made him set his pail down. There, in the center of the web, neatly woven in block letters, was a message. It said, "Some pig." Lurvy felt weak. He brushed his hand across his eyes and stared harder at Charlotte's web. Here's a picture of what he saw in block letters. And if you were looking at it without it being on the live stream, it would be, the words would be more clear. But if you read it in a mirror, then you should be able to see it. Some pig. I'm seeing things, he whispered. He dropped to his knees and uttered a short prayer. Then, forgetting all about Wilbur's breakfast, he walked back to the house and called Mr. Zuckerman. I think you'd better come down to the pig pen, he said. What's the trouble? Asked Mr. Zuckerman. Anything wrong with the pig? Not exactly, said Lurvy. Come and see for yourself. The two men walked silently down to Wilbur's yard. Lurvy pointed to the spider's web. Do you see what I see? He asked. Zuckerman stared at the writing on the web. Then he murmured the words, some pig. Then he looked at Lurvy. Then they both began to tremble. Charlotte, sleepy after the night's exertions, smiled as she watched. Wilbur came and stood directly under the web. Some pig, muttered Lurvy in a low voice. Some pig, whispered Mr. Zuckerman. They stared and stared for a long time at Wilbur. Then they stared at Charlotte. You don't suppose that spider, began Mr. Zuckerman, but he shook his head and didn't finish his sentence. Instead, he walked solemnly back up to the house and spoke to his wife. Edith, something has happened, he said in a weak voice. He went into the living room and sat down, and Mrs. Zuckerman followed. I've got something to tell you, Edith, he said. You better sit down. Mrs. Zuckerman sank into a chair. She looked pale and frightened. Edith, he said, trying to keep his voice steady, I think you'd best be told that we have a very unusual pig. A look of complete bewilderment came over Mrs. Zuckerman's face. Homer Zuckerman, what in the world are you talking about? She said. This is a very serious thing, Edith, he replied. Our pig is completely out of the ordinary. What's unusual about the pig? Asked Mrs. Zuckerman, who was beginning to recover from her scare. Well, I don't really know yet, said Mr. Zuckerman, but we have received a sign, Edith, a mysterious sign. A miracle has happened on this farm. There is a large spider's web in the doorway of the barn cellar right over the pig pen, and when Lurvy went to feed the pig this morning, he noticed the web because it was foggy, and you know how a spider's web looks very distinct in a fog, and right spang in the middle of the web there were the words, some pig. It actually says spang. I don't even know if that's really a word, but it does say spang. The words were woven right into the web. They were actually part of the web, Edith. I know because I have been down there and seen them. It says, some pig, just as clear can be. There can be no mistake about it. A miracle has happened, and a sign has occurred here on earth, right on our farm, and we have no ordinary pig. Well, said Mrs. Zuckerman, it seems to me you're a little off. It seems to me we have no ordinary spider. Oh, no, said Zuckerman. It's the pig that's unusual. It says so right there in the middle of the web. Maybe so, said Mrs. Zuckerman. Just the same, I intend to have a look at that spider. It's just a common gray spider, said Zuckerman. They got up, and together they walked down to Wilbur's yard. You see, Edith? It's just a common gray spider. Wilbur was pleased to receive so much attention. Lurvy was still standing there, and Mr. and Mrs. Zuckerman, all three, stood for about an hour, reading the words on the web over and over and watching Wilbur. Charlotte was delighted with the way her trick was working. She sat without moving a muscle and listened to the conversation of the people. When a small fly blundered into the web just beyond the word pig, Charlotte dropped quickly down, rolled the fly up, and carried it out of the way. After a while, the fog lifted, the web dried off, and the words... It doesn't even say ants anywhere. I don't know where I got that. After a while, the fog lifted, the web dried off, and the words didn't show up so plainly. The Zuckermans and Lurvy walked back to the house. Just before they left the pig pen, Mr. Zuckerman took one last look at Wilbur. You know, he said in an important voice, I've thought all along that pig of ours was an extra good one. He's a solid pig. That pig is as solid as they come. You notice how solid he is around the shoulders, Lurvy? Sure I do, said Lurvy. I've always noticed that pig. He's quite a pig. He's long, and he's smooth, said Zuckerman. That's right, said Lurvy. Agreed Lurvy. He's as smooth as they come. He is some pig. When Mr. Zuckerman got back to the house, he took off his work clothes and put on his best suit. Then he got into his car and drove to the minister's house. He stayed for an hour and explained to the minister that a miracle had happened on the farm. So far, said Zuckerman, only 4 people on earth know about this miracle. Myself, my wife Edith, my hired man Lurvy, and you. Don't tell anybody else, said the minister. We don't know what it means yet, but perhaps if I give thought to it, I can explain it in my sermon next Sunday. There can be no doubt that you have a most unusual pig. I intend to speak about it in my sermon and point out the fact that this community has been visited with a wondrous animal. By the way, does the pig have a name? Well, yes, said Mr. Zuckerman. My little niece calls him Wilbur. She's a rather queer child, full of notions. She raised the pig on a bottle, and I bought him from her when he was a month old. He shook hands with the minister and left. Secrets are hard to keep. Long before Sunday came, the news spread all over the county. Everybody knew that a sign had appeared in a spider's web on the Zuckerman place. Everybody knew that the Zuckermans had a wondrous pig. People came from miles around to look at Wilbur and read the words on Charlotte's web. Here is a picture of all the people looking at Wilbur. There it is. The Zuckerman's driveway was full of cars and trucks from morning till night. Fords and Chevys and Buick Roadmasters and GMC pickups and Plymouths and Studebakers and Packards and DeSotos with gyrometric transmissions and Oldsmobiles with rocket engines and Jeep station wagons and Pontiacs. That is a great assortment of old cars right there. They decided to have an old car show on the property too. The news of the wonderful pig spread clear up into the hills, and farmers came rattling down in buggies and buckboards to stand hour after hour at Wilbur's pen admiring the miraculous animal. All said they had never seen such a pig before in their lives. When Fern told her mother that Avery had tried to hit the Zuckerman spider with a stick, Mrs. Arable was so shocked that she sent Avery to bed without any supper as punishment. In the days that followed, Mr. Zuckerman was so busy entertaining visitors that he neglected his farm work. He wore his good clothes all the time now, got right into them when he got up in the morning. Mrs. Zuckerman prepared special meals for Wilbur. Lurvy shaved and got a haircut. His principal farm duty was to feed the pig while the people looked on. Mr. Zuckerman ordered Lurvy to increase Wilbur's feedings from 3 meals a day to 4 meals a day. The Zuckermans were so busy with visitors they forgot about other things on the farm. The blackberries got ripe and Mrs. Zuckerman failed to put up any blackberry jam. The corn needed hoeing and Lurvy didn't find time to hoe it. On Sunday the church was full. The minister explained the miracle. He said that the words on the spider's web proved that human beings must always be on the watch for the coming of wonders. All in all, the Zuckerman's pig pen was the center of attraction. Fern was happy, for she felt that Charlotte's trick was working and that Wilbur's life would be saved, but she found that the barn was not nearly as pleasant. Too many people. She liked it better when she could be all alone with her friends, the animals. So I was just thinking that when Lurvy increased Wilbur's feedings, I wondered when it was. Maybe it was second breakfast. So, all right. So, chapter 12, a meeting. One evening, a few days after the writing had appeared in Charlotte's Web, the spider called a meeting of all the animals in the barn cellar. I shall begin by calling the roll. Wilbur, here, said Wilbur. Gander, here, 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 said the gander. You sound like 3 ganders, muttered Charlotte. Why can't you just say here? Why do you have to repeat everything? It's my idiosyncrasy, replied the gander. Goose, said Charlotte. Here, 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 said the goose. Charlotte glared at her. Goslings 1 through 7. B-B-B, 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 B-B-B. I don't know what that means, said the goslings. "This is getting to be quite a meeting," said Charlotte. "Anybody would think we had 3 ganders, 3 geese, and 21 goslings. Sheep?" "Hee-ah," answered the sheep all together. "Lambs?" "Hee-ah," answered the lambs all together. "Templeton?" No answer. "Templeton?" No answer. "Well, we are all here except the rat," said Charlotte. "I guess we can proceed without him. Now, all of you must have noticed what's been going on around here the last few days. The message I wrote in my web praising Wilbur has been received. The Zuckermans have fallen for it, and so has everybody else. Except for Mrs. Zuckerman. I think she thought there was something unusual about the spider. Sorry, that's not in the book. Zuckerman thinks Wilbur is an unusual pig, and therefore he won't want to kill him and eat him. I dare say my trick will work, and Wilbur's life can be saved." "Hooray!" cried everybody. "Thank you very much," said Charlotte. "Now I called this meeting in order to get suggestions. I need new ideas for the web. People are already getting sick of reading the words "some pig." If anybody can think of another message or remark, I'll be glad to weave it into the web. How about suggestions for a new slogan? "How about Pig Supreme?" asked one of the lambs. "No good," said Charlotte. "It sounds like a rich dessert." "How about Terrific, Terrific, Terrific?" asked the goose. "Cut that down to 1 terrific, and it will do very nicely," said Charlotte. "I think terrific might impress Zuckerman." Here is, and you'll notice that it's back to a normal spider web, but here are the animals having their meeting. Maybe that's a separate, maybe Charlotte has more than 1 spider web.
Well, she does need a spider web
To actually catch the flies. Right, okay. I think 1 terrific might impress Zuckerman. "But Charlotte," said Wilbur, "I'm not terrific." "That doesn't make a particle of difference," replied Charlotte. "Not a particle. People believe almost anything they see in print. Does anybody here know how to spell terrific?" "I think," said the gander, "it's TEERRRFFIICCCCC." "What kind of an acrobat do you think I am?" said Charlotte in disgust. "I would have to have St. Vitus's dance to weave a word like that into my web." Sorry, said the gander. Then the oldest sheep spoke up. "I agree that there should be something new written in the web if Wilbur's life is to be saved. And if Charlotte needs help in finding words, I think she can get it from our friend Templeton. The rat visits the dump regularly, and he has access to old magazines. He can tear out bits of advertisements and bring them up here to the barn cellar so that Charlotte can have something to copy." "Good idea," said Charlotte, "but I'm not sure Templeton will be willing to help. You know how he is, always looking out for himself, never thinking of the other fellow." "I bet I can get him to help," said the old sheep. "I appeal to his baser instincts, of which he has plenty. Here he comes now. Everybody keep quiet while I put the matter up to him." The rat entered the barn the way he always did, creeping along close to the wall. "What's up?" he asked, seeing the animals assembled. "We're holding a directors' meeting," replied the old sheep. "Well, break it up," said Templeton. "Meetings bore me." And the rat began to climb a rope that hung against the wall. "Look," said the old sheep, "next time you go to the dump, Templeton, bring back a clipping from a magazine. Charlotte needs new ideas so she can write messages in her web and save Wilbur's life." "Let him die," said the rat. "I should worry." "You worry all right when next winter comes," said the sheep. "You'll worry all right on a 0 morning next January when Wilbur is dead and nobody comes down here with a nice pail of warm slops to pour into the trough. Wilbur's leftover food is your chief source of supply, Templeton. You know that. Wilbur's food is your food. Therefore, Wilbur's destiny and your destiny are closely linked. If Wilbur is killed and his trough stands empty day after day, you'll grow so thin we could look right through your stomach and see objects on the other side." Templeton's whiskers quivered. "Maybe you're right," he said gruffly. I'm making a trip to the dump tomorrow afternoon. I'll bring back a magazine clipping if I can find one. Thanks, said Charlotte. The meeting is now adjourned. I have a busy evening ahead of me. I've got to tear my web apart and write terrific. Wilbur blushed. But I'm not terrific, Charlotte. I'm just about average for a pig. You're terrific as far as I'm concerned, replied Charlotte sweetly, and that's what counts. You're my best friend, and I think you're sensational. Now stop arguing and go get some sleep. The end of chapter, whatever chapter number that was, 11 and 12. So I hope that you're enjoying the story of Charlotte's Web. We are about halfway through now. And
The first word is far.
the first word is far.
Into
Okay.
the night.
Giving away the story.
It's officially started. We have to
Four
read the
words.
we have to read it.
All right.
This is four.
So I hope that you enjoy and that you return next time. Hopefully it'll be tomorrow night. And looks like we have a, what do we call those? An art gallery approaching. So I will leave this to the expert hands of Kimberly, who can close out and show you some delicious artwork. God bless.
Delicious. Where'd you get that from? Bakery?
From Charlotte's Web.
Ta-da! I did this one, and just before I did this one. Ta-da! I think it was that one anyway. No, it wasn't. It was this one. Oops. Oh, sorry. I hope God is richly blessing you. Thank you for coming today, and I hope you have a good day. Oh, thank you for the hearts. Bye.